Ivanushka, the Little Fool. Once upon a time there lived an old man and his old wife. They had 3 sons. The older ones were clever, but the third was called Ivanushka, the Little Fool. The clever brothers grazed sheep in the field, but the fool did nothing at all. The whole day long he sat on the stove catching flies. One day the old woman prepared some rye dumplings and said to the fool, "Here are some dumplings. Take them to your brothers for their dinner." She filled a pot with the dumplings, and he took it and lumbered off to find his brothers. It was a sunny day when Ivanushka came out on the road. He saw his shadow at his side and thought, "Who is this man? He walks by my side and does not leave me for an instant. Surely he wants some dumplings." He began to throw dumplings at his shadow, and one after another threw them all away. But the shadow still kept walking at his side. "What an insatiable glutton," said the fool angrily, and hurled his pot at the shadow. And the shards of the pot flew in all directions. He came empty-handed to his brothers. They asked him, "Why have you come here, fool?" "I have brought your dinner," he said. "Where is it?" they replied. "Give it to us at once." "Well, you see, brothers, a stranger followed me all the way here, and he ate it all up." "What stranger?" the brothers asked. "Here he is," replied Ivanushka. "Even now he is standing by my side." The brothers began to swear at him and thrash him. Having thrashed him, they told him to tend the sheep, and themselves went home to have their dinner in the village. The little fool set about tending the sheep. Seeing that they scattered all over the field, he decided to gather them together and tear out their eyes. He herded them in a little spot, plucked out the eyes of every one of them, made them huddle together in a heap, and sat there as happy as a lark. He thought he had done something worthwhile. The brothers ate their dinner and returned to the field. "You fool, what kind of mess have you made here? Why is the flock blinded?" "What do they need their eyes for?" said Ivanushka. "When you went away, they scattered everywhere, so I thought it was a good idea to catch them, gather them together, and pluck out their eyes. It was a lot of work, and it made me quite tired." "Just wait," said the brothers. "We'll show you what it means to be tired." And they began to belabor him with their fists. The fool was well rewarded for his trouble. Some time passed. And by the way, there's not many pictures in this book, but we're reading from Collected Fairy Tales by Alexander Afanasyev. Some time passed, not much, not little. One day the old parents sent Ivanushka the Little Fool to town to buy provisions for the holidays. Ivanushka bought many things: a table and spoons and cups and salt. He loaded a whole cart with objects of every description. He started to drive home, but his horse, it seems, was not quite strong enough for this heavy load, and walked rather slowly. Ivanushka thought to himself, "After all, the table has 4 legs, just like the horse. Why shouldn't it run home by itself?" So he put the table out on the road. He drove on a long distance, or a short distance, and the ravens circled over him, cawing and cawing. The little sisters must be hungry, else why would they cry like that, thought the fool, and put out dishes with victuals to treat the ravens. Eat, little sisters, you're welcome, he said, and he rattled on slowly. Ivanushka rode through a forest of young trees. Along the road was a row of burnt-down trunks. Ah, he thought, the poor boys have no caps. They'll catch a cold that way. So he put his earthen pots and crocks on top of the stumps. Then Ivanushka came to a river. He sat about watering his horse, but it refused to drink. Probably he doesn't want water without salt, he thought, and began to pour salt into the river. He poured out the whole bag of salt, and the horse still refused to drink. "Why don't you drink, you old carcass? I have poured out a whole bag of salt for nothing," he said, and he struck the horse with a log right on its head and killed the horse on the spot. Now all Ivanushka had left was his bag of spoons, which he slung over his shoulder. He walked, and the spoons kept rattling. Tra-ta-tam, tra-ta-tam, tra-ta-ta-tam. He thought that the spoons were saying, "Ivanushka's a fool." So he threw them down and trampled upon them, repeating, "That'll teach you to call me a fool. Don't you dare taunt me, you wicked things." He returned home and said, "I bought everything we need, little brothers." "Thanks, little fool, but where are your purchases?" "The table is coming, but apparently it is late," said Ivanushka. "Our little sisters, the ravens, are eating from the dishes. The pots and crocks I put on the boys' heads in the woods. I used the salt to season the horse's water, and the spoons taunted me, so I dropped them on my way." "Hurry, fool, go gather everything you have scattered on the road." Ivanushka went to the woods, removed the pots from the burnt trunks, knocked out their bottoms, and strung a dozen of them, small and big, on a rope. Then, when he brought them home, his brothers thrashed him, went to town themselves to make their purchases, and left him at home. He listened and heard the beer in the tub brewing and brewing. "Beer, stop brewing, don't tease the fool," said Ivanushka. But the beer did not heed him, so he let it all out of the tub, sat in the trough, and drove around the room singing little sounds and songs to himself. When the brothers returned, they were terribly angry. They seized Ivanushka, sewed him into a sack, dragged him to the river. They set the sack down on the shore and went to find a hole in the ice. Just then a nobleman happened to drive by in a carriage drawn by 3 horses, and Ivanushka began to shout, "I've been appointed governor to rule and to judge, but I know neither how to rule nor how to judge." "Wait, you fool," said the nobleman. "I know how to rule and to judge. Creep out of the sack." Ivanushka crept out, sewed the nobleman up inside, sat in his carriage, and drove out of sight. The brothers came, dropped the nobleman sewed into the sack under the ice, and the water made a sound like "Gray, gray, gray." "He must be trying to catch a fish," said the brothers, and set out for home. As though from nowhere, Ivanushka appeared before them, driving a troika and bragging, "See the horses I caught? There's still 1 gray horse left. A real jewel." The brothers became envious and said to the fool, "Sew us up in the sack and drop us quickly into the hole. We'll get the gray." Ivanushka, the little fool, dropped them into the hole and drove home to drink beer, to honor the memory of his dead brothers. Ivanushka had a well. in this well was a bell, and that is all I have to tell.